For nearly 2 decades, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were the embodiment of a love story that seemed to defy the relentless pressures of fame. To the world, their radiant red carpet appearances, heartfelt public declarations, and shared triumphs over personal struggles painted a portrait of an unshakable bond, a rare Hollywood couple who had beaten the odds. Their union was a beacon of hope, a narrative of 2 stars who found solace in each other despite the chaos of celebrity life. But when Nicole filed for divorce, the carefully crafted illusion shattered, revealing a truth far more intricate and human than anyone had imagined. What followed was not a quiet dissolution but a tempest of raw emotion. Keith took to the stage with performances that bared a soul in turmoil, his music hinting at pain too deep for words. Nicole, with her characteristic grace, responded with quiet resilience, letting her actions speak louder than any public statement. Their split was not merely the end of a marriage, it was a collision of love, ambition, sacrifice, and the private battles that no amount of glamour could conceal. To understand how this golden couple unraveled, we must journey back to the very beginning, tracing the paths that led them to each other and, ultimately, apart. Nicole Kidman's story began far from the glitz of Hollywood, rooted in a childhood marked by contrasts and quiet struggles. Born in Honolulu, Hawaii, in 1967 to Australian parents temporarily living abroad, Nicole grew up in a family that blended intellectual rigor with creative freedom. Her father, Anthony, a psychologist and biochemist, provided a structured environment grounded in discipline and curiosity. Her mother, Janelle, a nurse and educator, encouraged artistic expression and empathy. When the family returned to Sydney, Australia, Nicole was a shy, introspective child, often retreating into her own world. Teachers recalled her blushing so intensely when called upon in class that she seemed paralyzed by attention, her fair skin betraying her discomfort. Public speaking was a source of dread, and she shunned the spotlight that would later define her life. Yet beneath this timidity lay a vivid imagination, a spark that found its outlet in creative pursuits. She gravitated toward ballet, then drama classes, and eventually community theater, where she discovered a transformative truth: on stage, she could shed her shyness and embody emotions she struggled to express otherwise. Acting became her refuge, a space where her vulnerabilities became strengths. By her teenage years, Nicole's talent was impossible to ignore. Australia's film and television industry was gaining momentum in the 1980s, and she seized every opportunity, appearing in commercials, TV movies, and small roles. At 16, she landed a starring role in the cult classic BMX Bandits, a low-budget action film that showcased her charisma and striking features, her statuesque height, porcelain skin, and expressive eyes. The role caught the attention of international scouts, and soon Hollywood came calling. For a young woman who had once been terrified of classrooms, the transition to global stardom was both exhilarating and daunting. She navigated auditions, media scrutiny, and the pressures of fame with a mix of ambition and vulnerability, her shy roots never fully erased. As her career soared with films like Dead Calm and Days of Thunder, Nicole was still searching for love, for family, for a sense of belonging that her rising fame couldn't satisfy. This longing would shape her personal life as profoundly as it did her professional one, leading her into a relationship that would bring both prestige and lasting scars. In the late 1980s, as Nicole's star ascended, she crossed paths with Tom Cruise, Hollywood's reigning titan. Their meeting on the set of Days of Thunder sparked an immediate connection, and in 1990, they married in a whirlwind of glamour and media frenzy. To the world, they were the ultimate power couple, young, beautiful, and seemingly unstoppable. For Nicole, who had grown up feeling like an outsider, being with Tom felt like stepping into a dream, a validation of her place in a world she was still learning to navigate. But behind the glossy magazine covers and red carpet smiles, their marriage was far more complex. Tom's deep commitment to Scientology, a polarizing religion, became a central force in their relationship. While Nicole rarely spoke publicly about it, reports and later accounts suggested that the church's influence created significant strain, imposing expectations and control that clashed with her independent spirit. The marriage, initially a fairy tale, began to feel like a gilded cage. The deepest wound came after their 2001 divorce. Nicole and Tom had adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor, and after the split, the children primarily remained with Tom, influenced by his ties to Scientology. Nicole's distance from them was a source of profound pain, a loss she carried privately but which left an indelible mark. For a woman who had always yearned for family and stability, this separation was devastating, a fracture that echoed her childhood longing for connection. The end of her marriage to Tom was more than a personal heartbreak, it was a defining trauma that shaped her views on love, trust, and resilience. She emerged from it with a quiet strength, determined to rebuild the dream of family she felt had been taken from her. When she met Keith Urban years later, that resolve fueled the intensity of their bond, but it also carried the weight of her past, making their love both a refuge and a risk. Keith Urban's journey was a stark contrast to Nicole's, rooted in grit and restless ambition. Born in 1967 in Whangarei, New Zealand, he moved with his family to Queensland, Australia, as a young child. His father, Bob, ran a convenience store but harbored a passion for country music. A love he passed on to Keith. By age 6, Keith was strumming a guitar, and by his early teens, he was performing at local gigs and talent shows. Home life, however, was far from idyllic. Financial struggles and family tensions created an undercurrent of instability, fostering in Keith a sense of restlessness that would define him. Music became his escape, his therapy, and his identity, a way to channel emotions he couldn't otherwise articulate. Unlike Nicole's structured upbringing, Keith's was chaotic, and he leaned into that chaos, dropping out of school to pursue music with no fallback plan. His gamble paid off, but not without cost. After years of grinding in Australia's music scene, Keith moved to Nashville, where his 1999 self-titled American debut album launched him as a country music sensation. With his tousled hair, piercing eyes, and electrifying guitar skills, he became a heartthrob and a star, selling out venues and earning critical acclaim. But fame amplified his struggles. By his 20s, Keith was grappling with alcohol and substance abuse, demons that grew stronger as his career soared. The pressure to maintain his image as a charismatic performer clashed with the chaos of his personal life. He'd been through rehab before meeting Nicole in 2005, but the fear of losing everything, his career, his relationships, his future, loomed large. His vulnerability, coupled with his raw talent, made him magnetic, but it also made him fragile. When he met Nicole, he saw in her not just a partner but a stabilizing force, someone who could anchor him in a way he'd never managed alone. Their paths converged at the Day USA Gala in Los Angeles in January 2005, an event celebrating Australian success in America. Nicole, at the peak of her Hollywood career after an Oscar win for The Hours, was elegance personified, a global icon with a guarded heart. Keith, a rising star in country music, exuded a quiet charm that masked his inner turmoil. Their introduction was unremarkable. Nicole later admitted she thought Keith wasn't interested, as he seemed reserved and didn't call her for months. But when he finally reached out, the spark was undeniable. Their romance moved swiftly, fueled by a shared sense of having overcome pain. By May, they were spotted together, and by the end of 2005, Nicole was openly smitten, describing Keith as the man who had swept her off her feet. For her, he represented authenticity and passion, a departure from the controlled intensity of her past with Tom. For Keith, Nicole was a symbol of stability and legitimacy, proof that he had transcended his struggles to claim a place among the elite. Their love story culminated in a breathtaking wedding on June 25, 2006, at the Cardinal Soretti Memorial Chapel on Sydney's Manly Peninsula. The ceremony was a blend of Hollywood grandeur and personal intimacy, attended by stars like Hugh Jackman and Naomi Watts alongside close family.